So how are you doing today, Shante?
I'm doing okay. I'm alright.
I remember, just to kind of piggyback off last time what we discussed and what we were talking about, we were, the last session we got into where you thought your stress was coming from, the main things. And you explained that you had a job situation, you had school, you had a lot of things that were becoming on your plate that was overwhelming. So to kind of reiterate that, what is that like now in the now?
Um, it's like it was before, but it's gotten a little bit worse. So I still am very overwhelmed at work. We're understaffed. I'm missing someone in my department. So a lot of the workload is falling back on me. And so now I've gotten into a little bit of a cycle where my notes are starting to fall a little bit behind, so they're doing a little bit of pile up. School is getting to that point of the semester where things are starting to be due. So that in conjunction with schoolwork, it doesn't leave a lot of time for me to hang out with friends and family or do the things that I need to do to kind of just, relieve stress. So.
Okay, so basically, it sounds like what you're saying is it's not one area or component in your life that has the most weight. It's the combination of all of them together?
It is. It's mostly school and work. It is. It's school and work together. And they are, in combination, very heavy for me.
Okay. So if you were just so that I can fully understand and kind of get into the day of these stressful days when you're in school and when you're in work, what does that look like? What does the typical day for Shante look like?
I go into work about 8. I'm usually a couple minutes late because I'm up late the night before doing notes, so I'm usually a little bit behind, a few minutes late. I'm supposed to be there at 8. I work with my clients from about 8 to 2, where I provide services to about 8 to 10 people by myself. And then from about 2 to 4:30, clients leave at 2. So from about 2 to 4:30, I'm trying to do my documentation from the day's notes. A lot of times, that 2.5 hour window is not enough for me to finish notes for the day. So I leave, and a lot of times if I have school, I'll go right to school from there, which if I have school, I'm there till probably 8, 9 o'clock. But if I'm not, I try to go to the gym, which still puts me home at about 8, 9 o'clock. So I typically get home 8, 9, and try to finish my notes from the day. It's usually about 11:30 or midnight by the time I shower, eat, and head to sleep.
Okay, and you start over the next day.
Yeah.
How long has this schedule been going on?
Since the beginning of my semester, that was when it started with a little bit of the understaffing at work and then items becoming due. So, a couple months.
Sounds like a lot. It sounds like also timing was a big issue. That is a big issue of the school starting at one time as well as the lack of staffing. Is that correct?
Yeah. It kind of both happened at the same time. Whereas if it was like one happened and the other didn't, then I probably would be able to manage, the difference or the change. But the combination of the two happening at the same time kind of made it more overwhelming. So yeah.
What I also hear is when you're describing your day, it sounds very structured. Very structured. So do you feel like when you're going through this day, is the day structuring you, or do you structure your day?
It's a bit of both. Work structures me because it is set by the time that the clients come in, the clients leave, and when I have to go home. Anything after work is me structuring the time that I have left, which my priorities are pretty much work, school, and the gym, and then self-care, family, friends. So after work, I structure what is left of my day, which is obviously either school or self-care. So both.
And self-care, I hear you saying family and friends. What else is self-care for you? What are you doing?
The gym is the most important. I try to stay in a decent shape and try to stay healthy as best I can, and it's a good stress reliever. So that's my biggest self-care.
Has that suffered since this new schedule?
Yeah, especially with school, because I mean work is from 8 to 4:30, so that is that time. Anything after is usually schoolwork, going to school, group projects, papers, anything like that. That would interfere with any self-care that I would have after work. So.
Okay. So I hear you use the word self-care a lot, and that's actually that's a very descriptive word, and it's very very powerful to me, because self-care it's something that is important to you, because it sounds like you're mentioning it a lot, but it's also sounded like that has changed.
Yeah.
Before the schedule got this hectic, before school started, before the day wasn't so structured, what was those days like? What were those days consist of?
They were actually pretty similar, but they were a lot less stressful, and it was more of my decision to be, I had a lot more say in what my schedule was. My work structure was pretty similar. I still went to work from 8 to 4:30, bring my clothes to work, go right to the gym. And, occasionally there would be notes to do at home, which would be fine because it was here and there. But it was still a very structured thing, but it was my decision. I was imposing the structure as opposed to being bound or, being forced to do things in a particular time frame. So I felt like I had more power and control over what I was doing then.
So it sounds like, if I can just repeat it back to you, what I just got from that, your present day schedule versus where you were in a place of less stress, the main component that it sounds like you're describing is lack of control. Before, you had a little bit more control, and you're saying that you're in a better place than now.
Mm-hmm.
When you say control, you're saying that what was more controlled? What was more control outside of? What was more control is when you say that?
So my days were pretty structured, and they were actually still pretty busy because I wasn't, at work from, 8 to 4:30, Monday to Friday. And I was in the gym from 5 to 8, 5 to 7 every day. So I was always kind of strapped for time and on the go, but I didn't have the added stress of school in the mix. And so when school added to it, I had more to do, and I had some days, a lot of days, took my ability to do my self-care. It kind of snatched it from me because I had to go to school on some days, and on other days I had to work on, studying or reading or projects, so it removed my ability to choose to go to the gym because I kind of automatically just had to work on school. And so I felt a little bit powerless, and I felt like I was not able to get to the things that I really wanted to do and felt like I needed to do to keep myself happy.
So, just to ask you a question, not to sound repetitive, it may sound a little bit repetitive, but if we're comparing and contrasting the now stress versus when you were less stressed and happy, if you had to maybe name 2 to 3 main components that were different, what would you say those were?
2 things that are different now as opposed to before.
when you were less stressed, you would say?
Um, I think it's this. I think it's one the understaffing at work, which is causing an increased workload. And two, the addition of school and the additional assignments that are, beginning to be due towards the end of the semester. So it's the kind of combination of the two things that take away any extraneous time that I would normally have.
So if you had to, if you were thinking about it, I mean, you had to really just come, if you were thinking about what would, out of the things that changed, out of the things that are different, we all know that work is something that most of us, unfortunately, cannot control our day fully in work, especially in high demand, lack of staff and things like that. You want to be a team player, you have those pressures and things like that. So that's oftentimes something that we feel like we can't control.
Absolutely.
What can you regain back that you had before that gave you that little bit of breathing room as far as stress relief? What can you see your day to day getting back to a little bit to the previous place of less stress?
I guess if it's hard to say, because I could say if I wasn't in school, then I wouldn't have any assignments that were due, and I can go to the gym, or I could hang out with friends, or do whatever I so choose after I got off work, like a lot of people do. Or I can, it's not really a smart decision to say I'm not gonna go to school because I'm gonna practice my self-care. So I guess ideally, I would prefer to have staffing return to how it was, so I wouldn't have to be concerned with bringing so much work home, and I could just, do my gym and balance between after work, gym, and school. That would be something that I could manage.
Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, you're in the social work profession, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, you have a supervisor. How does your management work? You have a supervisor, you have a direct person you go to. How does that work?
I do have a supervisor, but oddly enough, she's out on leave as well. She's out on maternity leave, so her leave has been even more extended than my coworker. And then her boss does not have an office in our facility, so she's kind of like in and out. And then the next people down are kind of floaters. They're practicing the community. They practice sometimes in the facility, but they're really hard to catch up with. When they are there, they're really hard to get a hold of because everyone wants to get a hold of them. So it's almost kind of like, everything's kind of in limbo. There's not really a structure of supervision right now. So that's tough to deal with as well.
So you don't feel that there's anybody that's approachable that can give you maybe not the actual physical support of absorbing some of your caseload, but just the support of being able to relay your day to day so that it doesn't give you the pressure of. It sounds like it's internal. What's essentially what you're going through on day to day at work is internal, and possibly it's resources or things just in a conversation that you could be tapping into that will relieve a weight. If you can kind of get what I'm saying, do you feel that way?
I don't understand the question.
The question is, if you had, even though your supervisor's out, you still essentially have some type of communication.
I do, and there are a lot of people who are very supportive and are understanding, and they come knock on my door, make sure that I'm not, overdosing on medication because I'm stressed. They're concerned, and but they're not my supervisors. They are a part of the supervision team. Technically, I don't report to them, but they can help in some ways. And they have helped in some ways. They've provided other people. They've helped me with other things, but I'm really kind of just hoping that my supervision team comes back.
That's very understandable. That's very understandable what you're saying, and it's good that you have that support as far as that goes with the because your stress comes from an expectation,
Yeah.
and you don't want to let your team down.
Right.
Do you think that some of that stress can possibly be relieved and relaying to your direct supervisor, hey, even if she can't necessarily give you the fix-it tool, but just letting her know? You know how sometimes you can let somebody know what you're going through, and then it relieves the weight because then they will possibly understand your expectations and your pressure. It will relieve you of a little bit. Does that make any sense?
It does. So maybe kind of let them, kind of communicate with them and let them know that I'm experiencing a little bit of stress.
If he or she knows that, do you feel like you as a person can begin to feel a little bit more comfortable in just someone knowing what you're going through, and you won't pressure yourself so much to achieve these goals and expectations from them? Kind of get it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So as far as I wanted to get back to where we were as far as previously, being a little less stressless, and the now, and what I'm hearing a lot, if I had to put some highlight words, it was self-care and it was control. Do you think you can possibly combine those two components to give you a stress reliever? And what I'm saying by that is control your schedule. If it's a half hour out of a day that you did something previously that you call the self-care, and no matter what, if your phone rings or anything, even cutting it off if possible, that you designated 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock to that self-care, to reading a book, to walk to the park, to going to the gym, to talking to a friend, to meeting a friend for lunch or dinner. Do you think that that is a feasible task for you to begin to have some relief? It may not look exactly like it did before as far as the time, but still dedicating a time slot where that is at no point anybody else's, and it's controlled and routine, and you're still getting fed. Do you feel like that's something you can start working on?
Yeah, I never thought about it that way. I think I was so kind of caught up in going to the gym and that being my main focus of self-care that I didn't really explore other options of self-care and didn't really realize that there were other ways that I could be happy and do things that are for me outside of going to the gym. So yeah, that's something to think about.
Okay. Well, I think we actually got a little bit of somewhere today. Definitely next time we meet, I want you to kind of work on that. Tell me if it works. If you came up with a particular time, we kind of revisit that and tell me exactly how is that working. Is it relieving the stress and things like that? If it's not, we'll revisit and probably come up with some more solutions. But for now, let's try that hour, that designated hour every other day or a couple of days a week. See how that works and see how consistent you are to yourself in giving yourself that time. And then we can kind of see what's going to work better in the future.
That sounds perfect.
All right. Well, I definitely appreciate you coming. And
anytime.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Have a great one.